Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to episode 12 of the Due North Political Podcast. How you guys been the past 2 weeks?
Hot.
Warm.
I'm a Louisiana boy, so
Feeling fine.
I'm fine.
Are you saying
This
we're
is
weak,
just-
Leon?
I'm not saying that because you guys kick my butt in the wintertime. I've adapted, but I don't know. The only thing that makes it a little unbearable is all of the cannabis smoke coming out of Canada. So
I just
Well,
got
boys,
back
we're
from
gonna-
Canada.
We got lots to get
that's
to
true.
tonight. We start the show out every week with the jobs of Rubio. Perry has to go find. They're not always hard to find because Rubio's a busy man. But here we go. He has to play security for the White House Correspondents' Dinner last week, and then he's going to possibly be starting a new series, MacGyver.
I like it.
Do you guys remember the Saturday Night Live skit, MacGyver?
MacGoober.
Those were good days.
If he's doing MacGyver, the duct tape sales should increase again.
Gorilla tape now.
Yep, right.
Too funny. Okay, we start our my 2 cents segment, guys, with I thought of an interesting concept. So we're gonna imagine 4 seats on a plane. Each one of us is in the middle seat. You have to pick who you want to be next to you on this 12-hour flight. And then at the end, we're going to see if any of one of us want to switch seats with somebody else because they had such good choices. The only particular here is that these people have to be alive, obviously, to fly. You can't be bringing in Benjamin Franklin or somebody like that. So I want to see, Leon, who's sitting next to you on this 12-hour flight to nowhere.
All right. I'd pick Jordan Peterson on one side and Elon Musk on the other. And the reason I picked those two is because, Jordan Peterson, that dude could talk for 12 straight hours without once dipping into the usual mid-wit progressive sludge that passes for conversation nowadays. Like, he's actually interested in the truth and responsibility and not collapsing into a puddle of feelings every 5 minutes. So on a long flight, that's a good gift. I'd rather listen to him than to him unpack the book of Genesis or something, or the problem of meaning, than endure some strangers TED talk about their pronouns and their lived experiences. And Elon on the other side, for obvious reasons, I'm a nerd, but Musk, he's like one of the few people left who still builds actual things instead of just posting about them. He's chaotic. He's productive. He doesn't care about the sacred cows of the professional managerial class. The two of them together would create like a force field of competence and no nonsense that would keep the rest of the plane's ideological contagion at bay. Plus, if the conversations ever slowed down, Musk could just pull out his phone and solve some engineering problem while Peterson explains why most modern day therapy is a scam. So it'd be perfect.
Leon, would you just sit and listen? You're kind of verbose. Would you sit and listen, or would you be equal part of the conversation?
I'll tell you this, and you can ask my wife this. There are very few podcasts that I sit through without just offering my unsolicited opinion at the TV screen. Jordan Peterson is one. I listen to Jordan Peterson and I don't say a word. I actually have a notebook and I take notes. That's how deep that dude is.
Did you mention the Genesis thing? Did you watch that series on Daily Wire?
I did.
Yeah, I did too. It was but there was a bunch of smart guys on that show.
Oh yeah.
That was a great conversation. Went for hours.
Yeah, and again, I don't need celebrity. I don't need I'm a political guy, but I don't need politicians. I don't need an influencer whose entire personality is a carefully curated Instagram grid. I don't need any of that. I need people that operate in sanity and reality. And that's a very short list nowadays. So you got Jordan Peterson there, and we can talk about a lot. I can just say Book of Exodus, go. And we're off to the races. Elon Musk, what do you think about extraterrestrial data centers and the timeline in which we're going to get to the Andromeda Galaxy? And he'll be like, okay, here we go.
Thanks for setting me up.
Yep. Right out of the park there.
Okay, Mike, it's your turn. You're sitting in the middle seat. Who do you got next to you?
Well, I gotta say, I kind of had a real life experience with this a while back. I was on a flight to DC, and I was sitting right in front of Al Franken and John Thune. They were in the seat right behind me, and I tell you, that was a pretty interesting conversation. But if I had to choose two people, I would love to sit between Matt Walsh and James Carville, and I would be the debate moderator. And if either of them would go off subject, I could tase either one of them. That would be the rules. And, James Carville, I'll give him credit. I think he's probably the best debater on the liberal side. And Matt Walsh, not only a great conservative debater, but his dry humor that he has would just have me laughing the entire time. And I mean, can you just imagine the two of these guys going at it and you getting a front row seat to it all? I mean, that would be an awesome flight. And I'd probably beg the pilot to take like a 3-hour detour just so we can have a couple extra hours with those guys. I'd love to be in the middle of those two.
Skeletor's looking pretty rough nowadays, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's getting old. He's getting old.
But and it would be funny to see Walsh, because Walsh is so straight-faced. Could Carville get him to laugh or something like that?
I doubt it. I don't think anybody can make him laugh.
I don't know. Carville has some one-liners, man. Like that dude. Yeah.
Did you see him the other day? He was kind of doing a podcast from bed.
Oh, I missed that one.
It looks like he was laying in bed.
In that same vein, like Carville, and do you, Perry? You probably remember this because you're like old like me. But do you remember Hannity and Combs?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that show. Yeah,
I did too. I actually had the I was able to interview Combs. He had a book coming out, and it was when I was on that station, and I thought it was fascinating. I used to love, and he's dead wrong on pretty much everything, but excellent interview.
That would have been fun.
How long has he been gone? Hannity's probably been doing that show 15 years without him. I remember going to New York City when my son went to West Point, and we were with my cousin touring New York City downtown, and we get by the Fox building, and sure as heck, Sean Hannity walks out of the building, so I got to go up and shake his hand. That was back when I was a fan of his. Now I've wised up.
Yep.
And boy.
So do you also, with the Carville thing, are there any of those relations? Whatever happened to Mary Matlin? Is she still around, or they still married? Anybody know?
Haven't heard of it.
Sure.
What a weird dynamic that was.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking, how could those two coexist? Like, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from her.
Just the economy stupid, or whatever this phrase was, or that's going to go down in history as one of the greatest lines of all time. Okay, my choice, guys. My choice, middle seat on the plane. Remember, at the end, we're going to see if we want to switch seats. I'm a history buff, so I'd have Victor Davis Hanson on one side. He seems very based. He seems very logical, full of knowledge. And on the other side, I'd have Tucker Carlson, because Victor used to be on Tucker's show, and now he thinks Tucker's lost his mind. So I'd like to see these two figure each other. Victor would ask him, "What the hell happened to you?" And I'd say the same thing. And I think that would be an interesting conversation. But just because they used to be dear buddies, and I'm not so sure that they are anymore, But Victor, I think I'd lean towards Victor's side, probably asking him most of the questions, teaching me about history and things like that, giving his perspective. But I think, what do you think of my group?
You do a pretty good Tucker impression.
I've been working on it. Like I'm literally in the middle of conversations with people, and I'll just throw one of those out. And they're like, "What the hell? What?" So,
My voice can't go there. I would like to learn that, though.
We just had somebody from the comments just say MacGyver was an environmentalist and anti-gun. so
Yeah, probably true.
Yeah.
But
I guess none of us can sit next to MacGyver then.
yeah.
Ryan, it's your turn. Who do you pick? You're the middle seat.
Well, I
In a
think
plane, 12 hours. It's your choice.
I'm not sure how the rest of you were thinking about this, but clearly you weren't really understanding the question. You're on a 12-hour flight and you want to sit next to Tucker Carlson or Jordan Peterson. I mean, come on. I mean, a 12-hour flight, there's no stipulation to who you're going to sit by. So I'm sitting by Scarlett Johansson and Sydney Sweeney for 12 hours. I mean, I'm envisioning the Seinfeld episode where he had to sit in the first class or next to the supermodel and started dating her. I mean, but you know, you guys do you, but
But see,
You
that's
didn't
a-
run this by your wife, did you, Ryan?
oh, she'd be okay with it.
if this is a 12-hour flight, I'm like done in 6 minutes. I need some conversation. So
But seriously, if I did have to choose two people along this vein of the podcast, I would. One would be Clarence Thomas, just to understand his views on conservatism and what he would think about our founding fathers, and just kind of how he thinks about cases and how he develops his opinions and goes about thinking that. I think that would be interesting from a Supreme Court justice's point of view. And the other one would be Elon Musk, similar to reasons that Leon said, but as a kid, I always wanted to be an astronaut. So I think it'd be, and I always did projects for school and stuff and reports on the solar system. So I think it'd be really interesting to understand his view of space and where he thinks humans can go and how far we can explore someday.
Musk should probably make that Dos Equis commercial most interesting man, right? I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
anybody want to?
I would switch with Ryan.
His first
Me
group
and-
or second group you talked about?
Well, the first group, I told you, 6 minutes.
Then you're going back to your own seat.
Yeah.
But the second group, oh man, Clarence Thomas, us chopping it up about original intent, originalism, that sort of thing. How hard it was to sit through people like Joe Biden, with the whole Anita Hill thing, and all of like guys had a fascinating life. I'd love to know how he can keep his head when so many people get to the pinnacle of where they are and they just kind of fall apart. He stays right there. He's like even kill. His mindset doesn't change. There have been a couple of decisions I'm like, what are we thinking here? But he's smarter than me by like infinity and beyond. So I think that conversation would be fascinating. And then obviously Elon Musk and that whole thing. I want to sit next to that dude just so whatever he's got going on can rub off maybe on me a little bit.
I think I
older,
might
so
stick with you, Leon.
I'm older. I think I could sit with in Ryan's group for more than 6 minutes. I just I've learned to take my time. You know what I mean?
I'm a young guy, there's
I got no self-control, dude.
Curious, guys, have any of you seen the movie Hail Mary?
Yes.
Would you ever consider, like Musk, since he's the popular guy tonight, he was picked twice, would any of you ever consider being that guy that goes to Mars knowing you could never come back?
Boy, that's a good one. knowing you'll never come back. I mean, if you're doing it to save humanity, then maybe, yeah, but anything besides that, probably not.
A younger me, maybe. I could see that.
Did you like the movie Hail Mary?
Loved it.
Yeah, I did too. My wife thought it was terrible. She
What?
And everybody likes it, but she thinks it's terrible.
The fact of the matter is that dude was the first person, especially in that timeline, to actually meet an alien. And like, I thought it was fascinating the way he worked. It's an element here on Earth, but it's a gas. But on their planet, it's a metal, and he can work it. I thought that kind of thing was fascinating. Eli thought that was fascinating because I was explaining to him that, and I was explaining to him how that is a fascinating movie. How our senses are relevant to Earth's atmosphere. And once you get outside of that, things change. Science change. There's no Fauci on, outside of I am the science. There's none of that. I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was and me and Eli, we went over this, like the centrifugal force. So when he was trying to get his gravity back online, what he did, and then how the alien, Eli called him Rocky. So I don't even know the alien's real name because that was, and so how he matched that to get the gravity and then build out that whole movie is fascinating. Like, I've watched it 3 times already. So
Ryan,
yeah.
have you seen it?
I have not, but I want to.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, we're going to bring Bob in. It's time for the hot seat spotlight.
Sure.
Here comes Bob Harms. Mike, introduce him for us, would you?
All right. Well, there he is. So today we have with us Bob Harms, and many of you may know him. He's a former Republican Party chairman. He's been politically active, for a very long time. And, I've known Bob for over 20 years now, and he wanted to come on and speak about a hot button issue that's going on in North Dakota right now, and that would be the constitutional measure regarding the school lunches that are going to be on the ballot this November. So with that, Bob, why don't you just go ahead and take 30 seconds or so and give us a brief bio about yourself, and then we'll get to some questions and such for you.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. Well, short version, I'm a retired lawyer, born and raised in Tioga, practiced law for 12 years in Williston and Tioga, worked for Ed Schaefer and John Hoven for 11 years, and then I became a lobbyist, political consultant for 20 years, retired about 5 years ago, and have been afflicted with a political passion since I was in high school, and still practicing it because I think we all should be. I think that Measure 2, which mandates that we provide free breakfast and lunch for every K-12 student in North Dakota, is a bad policy for North Dakota. There's a host of reasons. But, some of the sponsors sort of suggest there's no cost to this, and it's a free pass. And as we all know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so if you care about K-12 education, higher education, nursing home funding, water projects, your property tax relief, if you care about any of that or your tax burden, you should vote against Measure 2 in November. I have 6 reasons why I think that's true. 1, it goes into the Constitution. That's a bad place for us to be having policy that mandates spending. 2, it's bad fiscal policy. It sets as a priority for our state free breakfast and lunch for K-12 students across the state. That would be the highest priority in North Dakota because it's written into the Constitution. We can't change that policy except for a statewide vote of the people of North Dakota. It's bad fiscal policy because at present, North Dakota is beginning to exercise some fiscal constraint. The governor came out against this measure about a week, 10 days ago, something like that. And he's begun to recognize and speak publicly that our ongoing expenses in North Dakota are exceeding our ongoing revenues. And so he's called for every state agency to have either a hold even budget or a 3% cut, or the big agencies 10% cuts. No new buildings, no new FTEs. So bad fiscal policy at the time when we're starting to exercise some fiscal restraint. 3, we're fixing the problem that doesn't exist. Kids are not going away from school hungry in North Dakota. Even some of the sponsors have said publicly, look, kids are not going away. They're not being turned away from having a meal in North Dakota at present. So we're kind of wasting. This is a wasteful exercise. It's not needed. Number 3, but my 4th point is that it's wasteful spending. Right now, we spend about $40 million a year on feeding the kids that apply for it. About 38 of that is federal funds. About another 1.6 million is general funds. And if this is approved, so if I'm a wealthy farmer, lawyer, got 6 kids, have money, plenty of money in my household, my kids are still going to eat on the North Dakota taxpayers as opposed to me taking care of them. So we're overshooting the mark. So we're wasting money in the process. And the other thing that I'm concerned about on that wasteful spending part is that the kids that are getting those meals right now are not likely to apply because they're eligible for it if the measure passes. So we're gonna leave $38 million of federal money on the table and supplant it or replace it with our own tax dollars. Number 5, and this is a key concern for me, and that is that the way the measure is written, if the legislature doesn't have any other way of funding the thing, if they don't increase taxes, cut programming, then they've got to go to the legacy fund. And so this measure impedes the basic purpose of the legacy fund itself. I was one of the members of the sponsoring committee when the legacy fund was passed. And here's what we told the voters in 2010, and I quote from our marketing materials. The legacy fund would secure North Dakota's financial future by providing a consistent state revenue stream for our children and our grandchildren long after the oil industry takes a downturn. And we've been using the legacy fund for all kinds of things, but for the most part, the legislature has been spending most of the earnings. And if we continue to follow that path, when oil hits a downturn, we should, I'm using legislative council numbers, but when oil starts to take a downturn in about a decade or so, we'll need about $3.5 billion from the legacy fund to replace the revenue lost from the oil and gas industry. At the current rate, we're going to be short by about $2 billion. So this measure, as a backstop, says if you can't figure out another way to fund this thing, use the legacy fund earnings. That's, again, bad policy, bad for the legacy fund. And then the last reason that I'm opposed to this is it's another example of an outside group trying to influence the North Dakota Constitution. We got duped. We've been duped on that with the Marcy Fund law, or the Marcy law in 2016. We got duped in a couple of other instances where we've got out-of-state organizations promoting constitutional changes in North Dakota. That's what's going on here. There's a fund called the FAIR Project. They've spent about $600,000 to date on sponsoring this so-called citizens-initiated measure. So those are the 6 reasons I think this is bad policy, and I'd love to talk to you guys and get your listeners to talk about a strategy as to how do we beat this thing when they bring 50,000 signatures into the Secretary of State's office when this petition was submitted.
Bob, I'm going to start with my question. You mentioned the governor. He's kind of changed. Do you agree that he's changed his opinion? All of a sudden, he's coming out kind of strongly against it. Now, in my district, all 3 of my legislators are for it. Do you think because the governor has now changed his mind, or he's more vocal for certain. He's coming out publicly against this measure. Do you think he's gonna change the minds of some legislators because now they don't have his cover anymore? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if the governor has changed his point of view. I've not heard anything. I'm just delighted that he's coming out and he's vocally expressing his disagreement with this. And some of his comments follow the same kind of thoughts that I have, that it's going into the Constitution and that's this policy as the top priority for our state. That's crazy. Do I think that his vote and his comments might change the minds of a few legislators? I don't know, and I don't care, frankly. I'm more interested in how his vote, his comments influence the people of North Dakota, and I hope the people of North Dakota will follow his lead and recognize that this is bad policy for our state.
That's the second part of my question. I'm glad you went there because I don't think our legislators, excuse Mike, I'm not including you here, but I don't think they do a good enough argument of publicly getting out there and letting it be known that the citizens of the state should be against this thing. I don't think they do a good enough job of that.
Well, I don't know about your three legislators and their comments, but I agree with you, Perry, that legislators are elected officials, and if they generally have better access to information than most citizens. Most citizens don't take the time to educate themselves, and so if a legislator sits in 3 or 4 hearings listening to this policy when it was considered in the legislature, I would welcome their comments on this policy, pro or con, because I think that conversation helps educate and inform the voters as a whole. I'm hoping that this podcast right here is the beginning of a long and successful debate that we get people educated about how bad this is for our state.
Mike, since I went into the legislator side, let's hear from you.
Well, I have a few points to make here. First of all, Perry, you mentioned that the legislature doesn't do a good enough job of getting the message out to the people. Well, just to defend a little bit, we don't have resources to do so. We don't have money that we can spend on boosting ads or whatever like that. And all we can do is post something on our Facebook or Twitter.
I bet you can get on the radio. Things
like that. And I think you will see some of that. But it's got to catch on first, and the legislators that are against it, the challenge we have is that we're going to be going up, like Bob said, this group called the Fairness Project that's out of Washington D.C. Has already put in $600,000 in this campaign, and you haven't even seen any ads. So you wait until September and October when they start pushing this thing. I'm guessing you're going to have probably between $1.5 and $2 million that any opposition is going to be up against. So how do you raise money? Who's going to raise money to oppose something like that? That's one of the challenges. But so that's kind of leads into the question that I had for Bob, is if you had any suggestions, because personally, if I talk to people one-on-one and I tell them the facts. You mentioned, Bob, that legislators tend to have better access to additional information, which is true, because we're in the hearings and we get all the papers and studies and statistics and stuff. But when you share those one-on-one with people, 7 or 8 times out of 10, they'll change their mind if they were in favor of it. So how would you suggest, or what do you think would be a good solution to try to get the messaging out to all the people of the state before they vote on this in November?
Well, I've given some thought to that, and this is sort of the beginning of my personal effort in trying to educate the public about this. And I guess, Mike, to answer your question, I would talk to your other legislator friends. I would go on talk radio. I would post it on your Facebook. I talk to business and service organizations. I'm gonna talk to business organizations that I know of, with the idea of forming a coalition to beat this thing back. It's bad policy. It's going to take $124 to $134 million and dedicate it to this thing, whether my kids, if I have 6 kids and I'm some big fancy lawyer and I make $1 million a year, the taxpayers are still going to pay for my kids to have breakfast and lunch. That's crazy when we might have a higher need, but it's going into the Constitution. So talk to your legislators, get on the radio, write letters to the editor, reach out to business organizations, speak at the Lions Club, all of that. Just grassroots political activism. That's what it's going to take. And I'm concerned that if this organization spends $500,000 in North Dakota, I mean, Marcy's Law was in 2016. Yep. Marcy's Law added 2 pages to our Constitution. It was funded by a rich billionaire from California who was going around the country putting Marcy's laws in as many state constitutions as he could. He spent $1 million with a North Dakota advertising agency. Marcy's Law is now law in North Dakota. So we got to do grassroots politics at its basic level, and frankly, I think that'll carry the day. But all of you guys and the people that we reach out to have to be engaged and help us.
Leon, what question do you have for Bob?
Question.
Bob, Leon.
I've never heard Leon to just have one.
I do want to, in the comments, we have some comments. Or how are we going to handle those? Are we going to?
Yeah, list them off. I'll read them. I don't get to see them, so.
Oh, you don't see them. Okay. Well, Dan asks. He says the thing is the legislature changes the initiated measures if they don't go the constitutional route, like what happened when people passed the medicinal marijuana and home grow by 63%, and then they gutted the bill and pulled home grow. How do you respond to that?
Well, this is a constitutional measure, and the legislature doesn't have any ability to change it. If this thing passes by the North Dakota voters in November, it's in our Constitution. The only way to change that is for a constitutional amendment, and that only gets done in one of 2 ways. The legislature brings a constitutional amendment to the public for a vote, or the citizens initiate an amendment and they bring it to the public for a vote. Those are the only 2 ways that constitutional amendment is going to get changed.
Okay, well, we'll get to one of my questions. Proven need, so supporters of this thing frame it as like a compassion play for hungry kids. But has any data been presented showing widespread unmet nutritional needs in North Dakota schools?
I'm not, Leon, I have the same problem, and that's part of my wasteful spending point. The absence of data to sustain the idea that we should spend $130 to $140 million every biennium to meet a need that we think is already being met. There's no data like that. Now, people will tell you, hey, kids learn better when they've got a full tummy, then they're not worried about what's for lunch because they still haven't had breakfast. I understand that data, and I won't argue that data, but that's frankly part of the reason the state practice in North Dakota is to provide funding to help kids have breakfast and lunch who can't afford it. That's being done already. So I'm with you. No data, there isn't data that sustains the idea that there's this huge unmet need.
I would argue that, especially, I was going through the data yesterday because I saw some disturbing trend lines. And, I think North Dakota, we're sitting 46% proficiency. And then when you get into the demographic breakdown, it's bad. But we're focused on this. It's like a solution without a problem. When there are actual problems out there, when we're talking about the public education system in North Dakota, that we should be addressing. And I don't know, we're not. What about we homeschool Eli, the 8-year-old. I call him the 8-year-old. But my other kids went to Shanley and Oak Grove. So what about people like me? Like, I'm not a rich guy. I've never been a rich guy, but I didn't want my kids, heads muddled full of mush. So I beg, borrow, and steal to get them, where I needed them to be. Would this thing help people like me? So like if I'm sending my kid to like Shanley, or like we're doing with Eli, he's homeschooled. Do I get some of that money?
No, and that's so we educate about 120,000 kids in North Dakota in the public system. That I have the same question. Well, what about the 6,000 kids that are homeschooled? If Mike's homeschooling his kids, why doesn't he get some help like everybody else? The other group of kids, there's about 12,000 kids in private schools, like your kid, Leon, that you're referring. You guys don't get any of that. You don't get any of that handout. So private schools and homeschoolers, you don't count. It's just a K-12 thing. I want to go back to your earlier point, though, about problems in our education system. And I was surprised that North Dakota United is supporting this thing, because what it does is it's going to dedicate 130 million, give or take, into breakfast and lunch for kids who don't need it. And then you think, well, could we spend that money getting better performance out of our kids, out of our education system, so that we have higher proficiency rates, so we are actually proud of the system that we have in North Dakota and the outcome that it's producing? That would be a better use of the money, as far as I'm concerned.
You just blew my mind with that question.
That's why this is a good show. These are great questions, Leon. Ryan, you're next.
So, Bob, you said that that they're saying this will cost about 140 million over biennium. Yeah. How can the voters trust that this is an accurate projection? I mean, here in Minnesota, when K-12 school meal program was implemented back in 2023, the costs in the first year were 20% more than what they were projected to be. And so, as with any social welfare program, how accurate are these cost projections, and how can we keep them in control without them, running down the rails and blowing the budgets?
Yeah, well, Ryan, I think you're onto something, and there would be a couple of data points that supports the idea that that's something of a concern. In 2021, a legislator introduced a bill to do this very thing. The expected cost then was 70 million. Today, it's almost double that. So that's one data point. Your 20% experience in Minnesota is another data point. And then a third is the numbers that I was just talking about. So you have 120,000 kids in North Dakota that this applies to. You got another 20,000 sitting on the sidelines, the private schools and the homeschoolers. Why aren't they going to be part of that program in a year or 2 or 3 or 4? Why doesn't the homeschooler mom and dad come in and say, why does Mike Machenbacher get his kids breakfast and lunch at his school in Bismarck, and I don't get the same treatment in my kids at St. Mary or when I'm homeschooling at my house? Legitimate issue, I think.
Anybody else got anything? Good discussion.
So we all know that when government provides something, it normalizes that whole universal benefits, regardless of income, that sort of thing. Where does that stop? Like, so we get school lunches. Hey, yay, hooray! What's the next thing? What stops another measure from coming forward, saying, "Hey, we need this now. This is a bigger deal than the free lunch thing."
And Leon, you kind of hit on a point that I wanted to add to also is I'm afraid there's going to be 2 new norms coming through in constitutional initiated measures now. And the last initiated measure with the term limits, they put language in there that says the legislature cannot make any changes to this ever. And the Supreme Court held that up. So I think every initiative measure you see moving forward is going to have that language in it. And secondly, they might just add them all into the Constitution. Everything might be a constitutional measure because the legislature can't change that either. So, I mean, these are slippery slopes that we're walking down. And I just wanted to hit one more quick pointer too. But I mean, none of us on this show, there's not one citizen in the state of North Dakota that wants any kid to go hungry. None of us want that. But so when this came up during the last session, I started asking school administrators from around the state. And I just asked them the same question. I said, is there any kids in your school that are going hungry because of legislative inaction? And they all said no. And I said, so why are we doing this then? So, why are we spending, X amount or $100 million extra dollars on school lunches if we're, like you mentioned earlier, there's a problem that we're trying to solve that doesn't exist. If there were kids going hungry, or if there was kids being denied meals, I mean, I could change my mind on this, but the fact is it's not happening. And I would challenge anybody that's out there to go ask yourself. I'm a legislator. I get it that people don't believe what, your elected officials say, but go ask for yourself. Go ask your school administrators. Are there kids going hungry? Are there kids getting different meals? Are they being shamed? Whatever. Ask them yourself and you'll get the same answer. I guarantee it.
So Mike, go ahead, Perry.
No, go ahead.
Mike, I'm curious. I'm concerned about a couple, how much time we got, but I have a couple of thoughts. One is that to have your listeners think about this question: is free breakfast and lunch for K-12 education students, is that the highest spending priority in North Dakota as far as you're concerned? Is that the first dollars that should get spent by the taxpayers of North Dakota? Because that's what this thing does. It mandates that gets spent by the legislature. Think about that. And I think about the property tax proposal. Now, I'm not wild about the legacy fund being the source for the property tax proposal that was approved by the legislature. I agree with the cap. But so, this thing could jeopardize that property tax proposal. Harms that'll never, but all that money comes out of the same pot. Here's the second point that I really want to ask you guys and your listeners, and that is, what steps do we take? All of us probably are of the same philosophical bent, I'm guessing. But how do we take the group of five and convince 100,000 North Dakota voters that this is a bad idea and we got less than 100 days to get it done?
That's $1 million question that we need to get answered. But I'll really quick ask you this, Bob, because this has been something that's been floated, and maybe the rest of you can pipe in this too. But this is something that's been floated, is that if the legislature does put an initiated measure on the ballot, that it also comes with some funding to where they can advertise it. Now, not necessarily promote it, because we know that's unethical, but to just put out facts. Put out fact sheets as this is what it does. This is how it'll affect you, the taxpayers. But then, of course, you're spending state dollars to promote it. It's been floated. I don't see any legislation, making that legal or putting it into any other things that the legislature puts on the ballot. But I just want to know, what are your thoughts if you took, say, $100,000 for an advertising campaign to explain clear to the voters of what it does?
Is that a question to me?
It's a question to whoever wants to take it. Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
Well, I think it's a terrible idea. Because
then it wasn't my idea.
Well, I think it's a bad idea, and I hope I never see it in law in North Dakota. But let me get back to the question I posed to you guys, and that is, I've spent about a day getting schooled up on this thing, looking at the facts, looking at how it affects the legacy fund, the fiscal note and so as a result, I'm going to put on my Facebook page my recommendations about measure 1 and measure 2. And I'll narrow it down so some of my friends will look at it and say, these are harms. There's 6 reasons why this is a bad idea. I'll do that in the next couple of days. All of your listeners should share this podcast, share their thoughts on their Facebook page, but they should write letters. They should do, as I said earlier, remember the VFW, speak at the annual meeting, go to your board of directors, talk it up, and make sure your friends and family vote in November. It drives me crazy that 20% of North Dakota voted in the June primary. 20%.
Yep.
I want to make a point. So it starts the governor. It helps that he's against this. He's got the biggest microphone in the state. So he needs to be forceful. The rest of us, it takes effort and legwork. And I want to mention something about Facebook. Okay. Lots of people post stuff. I've kind of learned this since I started the Open Range show. You post stuff and you like it. Like it doesn't do squat.
Yeah.
Perry's going to speak his mind. You got to share it. If you share it, it goes viral. It goes everywhere. Every one of your friends sees it because it's on your page. People think they're doing something because they like it. Yeah, I agree. If you agree, you have to share the post. So it reaches such a much bigger audience. And I don't think people comprehend that enough.
Yeah. I mean, and Perry, to that point, if the 5 of us shared this podcast, my guess is we could easily reach 10,000 people in a day.
Folks, don't share, constantly share. If you agree with an opinion, if you agree with a clip, share the sucker. That's how we spread the word. And Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, Instagram, it's all valuable, but you have to share it. Like it doesn't mean squat.
Even if you don't like it, share it, put your commentary on top of it. I think these guys are, off base here. Let me know what you think. I think this initiated measure is great because blah, blah, blah. But listen to these chuckleheads. Do that thing. I do it all the time. Like the forum and KVLY. I'm like, listen to these idiots, So it at least gets the conversation out there, and folks that didn't have eyes on it will now have eyes on it. And then we could have these discussions. Like, again, the 5 of us, we are like-minded, but we're not simpatico on everything. We've had disagreements, But the fact of the matter is, there are too many people in North Dakota that are not engaged, and we need to do something about that. Yeah. So even if you don't agree, share it. I saw Dustin on here. Hey, Dustin. Hey, share this podcast, dude, and share it with your other friends too.
Bobby, appreciate you being on. I want to talk to you in the next few days. I've got an idea for you, but if you like, you can watch the rest of the show, or we can send you on your way. It's entirely up to you.
I'll watch. Does it go till 10?
No, God, no.
We're going to try to be done in 20 minutes. We're going to try, and we're going to now give you you get to give your opinion because you're part of the discussion here. So, guys, we have our fire. Okay, we have our fire away segment. I want to set the premise. We're going to be a little quicker tonight, okay? Because this was a great discussion. These hot seat things, Mike, you're on fire the last 2 episodes with your guests, so appreciate that. Here's my premise. I recently finished an audio book on Karl Marx. At the end, a philosopher named Roger Scruton is quoted as saying, "Socialism begins with the promise of freedom and ends with the demand for obedience. It is not liberty, but its negation disguised as its fulfillment." We have proud Democrat socialists now winning congressional, mayoral, and city council elections in America's largest cities. We're going to start with Mike. You talk about normal Democrats a lot. Well, can these normal Democrats keep these DSA monsters under their beds, or do they have something to worry about?
Well, I would say this, Perry. Here in North Dakota, all the Democrats that I serve with, I see as reasonable people. I do think they're truly doing what they think is best for their constituents and, for the state of North Dakota. I disagree with them, a lot of the time, but I do think that, none of them think that the Democratic Socialists of America represent North Dakota values. I think they would agree with us on that. Even in their districts, which tend to lean a little more liberal than districts like mine do. But, I would assume, of course, this is just an assumption, but if polled, the voters in those districts would prefer a more mainstream Democrat rather than a Democratic Socialist of America, that kind of Democrat. And I just don't see the DSA activists getting a foothold in North Dakota anytime soon. I think this is more apparent in the larger cities where things have gotten so bad under several years of liberal leadership, and then they realize that they need to do something different. But instead of coming to the Republican side, they're choosing to move further left, thinking that's going to solve the problem, which we know is not going to work. But even in North Dakota, I really think Democrat voters know that life is pretty good here. Especially when you compare things like cost of living, safety, the wages that we have up here and such like that. And we don't have, like in New York, you have $5,000 a month rent for one bedroom apartments, and you're paying $7 a gas or $7 a gallon for gas in California. So, unless things go completely awry in North Dakota, I really don't see, the DSA group getting any momentum in our state. That's my thoughts.
So based on your answer, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think you're probably right, but I want to, how I came up with this question, I want to show you this poll that Fox News just put out last week. Okay. 59% of Democrats, there's got to be some normies in there, are fine with DSA. 52% socialism. Only 41% capitalism. So I think I have an argument to make that it's something to worry about. Now, Leon, my question for you, because we're going to be in a little hurry. Do you think this is just a fringe few, or are they becoming the White Walkers of Game of Thrones fame?
Oh, dude, they are the White Walkers. And Roger, he nailed it. Like socialism, and I've said this multiple times, doesn't arrive wearing jack boots, carrying a hammer and sickle anymore. It shows up smiling, promising equity and justice and freedom from the greedy corporation. And then once it has the levers of power, it demands you sit down, shut up, and obey or else. And that's not liberty fulfilled. That's liberty crucified, and its corpse is dressed up in progressive rainbow flags. Now you look around, and you have self-described Democrat socialists, people who openly admire the same failed ideology that stacked bodies like cordwood in the 20th century. And they're winning mayoral races. They're winning city council races and congressional seats in America's largest cities like New York and Chicago and the West Coast. Are they fringe? Only if you think a metastasizing cancer is fringe, because it started in one organ. The White Walkers didn't show up at the wall as a mild inconvenience. They were the consequence of a civilization that stopped believing in its own founding myths. They stopped defending their borders. They started treating existential threats like they were just another culture to dialogue with. If you remember in the Game of Thrones, they actually brought one of these things to the castle, showed everybody, and the queen was like, they're a little far south. I mean, we're too far south to kind of worry about that. That we can't do that. Like these people, they're not interested in tweaking the tax code. They want to redefine the American experiment itself. And you look at that graph that you just put up there. We're moving that way. And then I think a lot of the conversation on our side doesn't help either. When we're talking about housing costs and them bringing in all of these people from outside of America and stamping citizenship on their foreheads and driving down the wages and all of these things, it makes normal, rational Democrats like Mike, apparently he knows a couple. I don't. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But you make folks like that are actually rational look at what the socialists are selling as a good thing. When they're talking about rent controls and all of that, and that resonates because the rents there are ridiculous. It's crazy. And then when you look at the I feel myself going on a rant, so I'm gonna walk it back a bit.
You already did.
I'm sorry.
Nice. And give me props. The Game of Thrones question was really good, wasn't it? That was
100%.
legit. Yeah.
okay. Now,
No
and
kidding.
it fit today because last night, Mondami puts out addresses and names of people that own $5 million or more homes in New York. He lists names and addresses. This is a hit list. It's a warning shot. This is not something. I mean, he's doxing people in theory, right?
Yep.
I mean, what do you think's going to happen? So it is the White Walkers. Ryan, your question. You live in a very blue state. I would suggest governor candidate Peggy Flanagan is a Democrat socialist. Can you name 3 normal Democrats that have a snowball's chance in hell of getting the next presidential nomination nationally?
Yeah, I mean, the way things are going, are we sure a Democrat socialist isn't going to get the nomination? But I mean, you got Democrat politicians who all seem to position themselves in as moderates in sheep's clothing until they get into office. You've seen that from Virginia with Abigail Spanberger. Biden, he portrayed himself as a moderate until he got into office, but who knows if that was all Biden's doing or if he was not fully cognizant and it was just everybody else running the government for him. But as far as 3 normal Democrats, I'm not sure. Well, probably a couple of these guys will run, but I would say one would be John Fetterman. 3 years ago, I wouldn't say him. Who knew that he was gonna recover the way he has from his stroke? I wouldn't have voted for him 3 years ago, but he's gotten healthy and so. But I guess who knows if he'll be a Democrat in 4 years or 2 years either, depending where Democrats go with Israel. But the other one I would say would be Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. He's had to work with a Republican legislature on budget and economic policy, so at least he knows how to work across the aisle. And third one I would say would be Stein from North Carolina. You just don't get many Democratic governors in the South nowadays, and he's had to work with Republicans as well. So those would be 3 moderates, I would say, who might have a chance.
Bob, you stayed on the show. You get to answer my premise. Is this anything to worry about, or is Perry just gaslighting everybody?
No, I think it's something that we certainly should be concerned about, not just in the Democrat Party, but the American people as well. Young people have, not numbers as high as that Fox poll, but young people are embracing the idea that socialism is a economic system that is workable and something that a good share of our culture is embracing. And it's just wrong-headed, ignorant about how the world and the history of the world has evolved. And I think that it's certainly something that we ought to be concerned about. And if it starts to show up in North Dakota, well, it's in America already. We need to be concerned about it. Well, what do we do about it? I think we just have to help educate our family, our friends, the founding fathers, the core principles, the debate that's been going on in this country for 100 years between progressivism and capitalism and traditional liberalism. Now we know it as conservatism, but those conversations have to be ongoing and programming. I don't have a pat answer for that, but those are the conversations certainly that are important to America.
I have an answer.
Bob, I met you about It'll be 20 years, but we don't talk a lot, but lots has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Crazy.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we jump to our last segment. It's called Looky Here. We each bring something up that maybe the public might have missed. And I'm going to try to find Mike's, but we want to bring it to the public's attention. So we're starting with Mike's Looky Here. This is Mike's suggestion.
Well, surprise, surprise! I found my looky here from the state of California this time, but they printed a list of 10 of the wackiest laws that they actually have on the books in California. So I just wanted to go through a few of them. There's 10. I'm not going to hit them all though, but first, in Calaveras County, it is legal to own frogs for frog jumping competitions, but if the frog dies, you can't eat the frog. It must be properly disposed of or you will be fined. Then if you go to the city of Pacific Grove, it is illegal to harass butterflies. Seriously, it's $1,000 fine if you're caught harassing butterflies. Then you can go to the city of Carmel, where it is illegal to wear heels over 2 inches and with a base less than 1 square inch, unless, of course, you get a permit. That's right. You can get a permit to wear high heels in Carmel, California. There is a state law that says that you cannot shoot whales from a moving car. And I need to remind you all, nobody passes laws preemptively. This was obviously a reaction to some genius that decided it would be a good idea to take out their pistol on the highway and do a drive-by on Moby Dick. And so, you can expect these laws to be on the books in every state because as the saying goes, as California goes, so goes the nation. So I'm not going to be very happy when I can't eat my jumping frogs anymore.
So in North Dakota, we shoot gophers and they shoot whales. Cars.
Yeah, exactly right. Someone took a pop shot at Moby Dick down in California. Had to have been done.
Okay, I'm going to do mine.
That's crazy.
This is my looky here. It's been hot in Europe this summer, and they're now blaming it on there's not enough pollution.
What?
There's not enough. A study says we've cleaned the air too well. There's not enough pollution, and that's why it's hot.
Oh my God.
I thought global warming was caused by pollution.
Yeah, but
Did they switch
eventually
now?
you have too much non-pollution, and then you get heat, Mike. You either cool the planet or you heat the planet. You can't win with these people. I thought that was interesting. Had you guys seen that one? Had you seen that one?
That's the first I've seen that. That's crazy. But these people don't have air conditioning. So,
Feel free to use that when you talk to your friends. That's why we have Looky Here segments so that we can bring these up to people. This is Leon's. Wow. This is a video. Guys, sometimes I have a tough time hearing this, so you have to tell me when it's over, okay? Here we go.
I did run, and then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books, and then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people, and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like, we get lied to, smoke and mirrors, like pretending like that's unacceptable.
Leon, Is that you run? Is that how you would run for office? I mean, you just wouldn't lie to the people?
Well, one, Ashley is beautiful and brave. Am I right? Dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, the folks on the night watch, the wall isn't just crumbling. It's already fallen, dude. The night watch was too busy arguing about pronouns to even notice, hey, there's a big section of the wall. Did you hear what that dude said? I wouldn't lie to the people. As he's standing there in a dress with long hair. And I'd be honest. Like, dude, you're not honest with yourself. To me, this is the typical, Mike, you excluded from this, but this is the typical politician, dude. You say things with a straight face, like we can't see you're lying. Well, anyway, I'm gonna take a step back. But I thought that when we're talking about politics today, that just to me, that's like, yep, that's pretty much where we're at right now.
I
That
miss
person
the
may-
days. Go
Oh.
ahead.
I was going to say that person may have a Nazi tattoo, but I guarantee you nobody's checking on their chest.
I miss the days of the 80s, the 70s, when you could just say, you're not a serious person. You don't get to be on stage. We don't have to accept every crazy nut job in the world and say, yeah, you get a platform. I'm sorry. If that offends you,
Yep.
tough.
Agreed 100%.
Okay, Ryan, we end with your looky here. I think this is it.
Yeah, so bear with me here because I think you'll like this here as I get to the end. But my looky here is another installment of how the crazy turns, and this is from my own backyard here in Minnesota. But I guess this story was initially covered a couple of years ago by Alpha News, but it flew under the radar since then. But now these are transgender dolls that are set to debut in some of the Minnesota elementary schools this year that come with interchangeable body parts and are marketed as helping children to understand their gender and to let them know they can be whatever they want. I remember back when I was in elementary school and being told that you can be whatever you want, but back then it being like an astronaut, a firefighter, or a president. Now it means you can be a boy today, a girl tomorrow, and something we don't even know about yet the next day. But yeah, I know what you're thinking. What's this guy making such a big stink about dolls? Well, let me give you a hint, Junior. Maybe we can live without dolls, people like you and me. Maybe, sure. We're too old to change the world. But what about that kid sitting down in the first grade, going to grab a toy from the toy bin this fall in a Minnesota classroom and finding dolls with interchangeable pee-pees and wee-wees on Barbie or Toy Story's Woody? Doesn't that first grader deserve better? Look, if you think this is about homophobia or discrimination, you better think again. This is about a kid's right to play with a toy without getting his mind warped. Or maybe that turns Tim Walz on. Maybe that's how he gets his kicks. Him and his Keith Ellisons, Ilhan Omars. Well, I got a flash for you, Joy Boy. Party time's over, and we aren't going to let this happen to our kids anymore.
How could you do that with a straight face, dude?
Oh,
What is going on?
oh, that is brilliant. Oh,
Whoa. That was a doozy, Ryan.
you should do that again. I know I'm going to clip that. That's for sure.
That might win the award for the. We might have to get our award back out that we had on the first few episodes. You might get 100,000 clips.
That's crazy, dude.
Now,
chat
where does
box
that
is
come
loving
from
it.
Again? Wasn't that guy on Seinfeld? He was
That was
very
Mr.
serious.
Bookman from Seinfeld when he had the overdue library book. This is about a kid's chance to go to the New York Library without, pulling a book without seeing scribblings of pee-pees and wee-wees and getting his mind warped.
Wow.
How did you think of that? It was brilliant.
I just
Okay,
thought
guys, that's the show. Bob, we thank you for joining us. This was great.
All right. Thanks for the
we'll be in
invite.
touch, okay?
Well, all right. I'll look forward to it. Take care, you guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys,
thanks,
have
Bob.
a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everybody for watching. That was episode 12 of the